What's up, everybody? It's Anthony Cosenza with the Orange and Black Insider Bengals podcast and CincyJungle.com. Coming at you finally talking about a win as it pertains to the Cincinnati Bengals this year. Man, it's been a struggle. Even this win has been a bit of a struggle, was a bit of a struggle, and the Bengals come out victorious. They end up going 1-2. They needed this for a variety of reasons, and they needed this because not only just to get their season on the right track and feel good about where they're heading and all of that. This division is 2-1 across the board, and when you fall to 0-3 with everybody else at 2-1, you're in trouble. So the Bengals really needed this one, and they came to play. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't the best win. It wasn't the, I don't know. It wasn't really the designed narrative that you wanted in this one for a variety of reasons. You kind of wanted, Burrow to come out firing and throw for 500 on that bad calf and everything, and it wasn't really that. It wasn't a Brett Favre Monday night performance on the unfortunate situation with his father passing type of thing. It wasn't a Randy Moss rookie Monday night. It wasn't like this explosive thing, but it was kind of one of those things where you go, man, this was so needed for the Bengals. This was so needed for the city of Cincinnati. And of course it came with the Ring of Honor induction of Boomer Esiason and Chad Johnson. Really awesome night. It was the whiteout night, a lot of white, a lot of spirit in the stadium. And the Bengals come out and beat the Rams. I mean, I wish I could say it was, hey, a really explosive, awesome game. I mean, 19-16. That was the bottom line. The Bengals did not get in the end zone. They were reliant upon Evan McPherson for for the most part, and they were reliant on their defense. And both of those units, the special teams and the defense, came to play. They came to do what they needed to do, and the Bengals, ended up getting in the win column and doing what they needed. Now, and there is a winnable stretch. We'll talk about a lot of different things here. There is a winnable stretch here coming up for the Bengals, and some teams are tougher than they may appear. Some teams are easier than they may have appeared when we looked at the schedule initially, but hey, they're the Bengals are now 1-2, not where you drew it up necessarily at this point in time, but they are, they're on the winning side of things, and they've got, a stretch here where they can continue to get things right for their team. Again, I'm Anthony Cosenza. This is the Orange and Black Insider, part of the Cincy Jungle podcast channel, one of many great shows, this one excluded. I mean, I'm not going to pat myself on the back. One of many great shows on the Cincy Jungle podcast channel, whether it's this one, the coach doing coach speak, or, doing his deal on his show. And then, of course, talking football with Bengal Jim and friends, and, 3 and Out with Jason and Kevin. Hopefully you like all of the different things that we are providing you here on this channel. And if you like what we do on the YouTube channel, go ahead, subscribe below my microphone. down by the Cincy Jungle icon there. Go ahead and click the show icon to subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to be notified when we go live and when new content is available. We appreciate it. So check it out. Hey, and by the way, if you're tuning in live or after the fact too, if you were at the game and you had some experiences, with the game, and what that atmosphere was like, I've got a big case of FOMO, fear of missing out. I was maybe thinking about coming to this game as this went on the schedule earlier, and then of course, with the Ring of Honor thing, I'm like, oh man, I got to be there. I'm going to be there, and didn't happen. I'm a little bummed out. But if you have some cool experiences, if you met some cool people or anything like that, let us know. We'd love to hear your stories there. You can leave it in the live chats on a number of different platforms from which we are streaming live, and it is late. I mean, it's 1:30 Eastern for a lot of you. It's late for me, even on the West Coast. It's 10:30 for me, but um, hey, I appreciate. We still got some good amount of live viewers here, so we appreciate that. And we'll be talking about some things. Let's talk about the tail of the tape. I love the tail of the tape. And this is, we always bring up the ESPN box score for this. And for better or for worse, I mean, if you don't like this, I don't know if you don't like this platform or whatever, but this is what I like to use, because I feel like this is a nice breakdown of a lot of different things. And when a wonderful platform such as ESPN does the work for me, hey, I'm gonna allow them to do it. Hey, here's Matthew Stafford's stat line: 18 of 33, 259 in terms of yards, 8.2 average, one touchdown, two interceptions, six sacks. The Bengals pass rush came alive, and the Bengals pass rush came alive without a lot of like supplemental help. I mean, they blitzed a lot. They did a lot of different things on defense, but this wasn't like, one or two from Hendrickson, and then Osai came in and did it. It was like the starters. It was the starters. QB rating 66.4 for Matthew Stafford. It kind of felt, I think, some things late and some positive plays late ended up making things a little bit better in terms of the stat column for Matt Stafford, but Bengals were all over him all night. Joe Burrow, 26 of 49, 49 passes from the guy who has the injured calf and is coming back from that. Okay. 259 yards, 5.3 yards. It was a lot of dink and dunk. I'm not going to lie. There were some shots that were taken. There was a lot of dink and dunk stuff from Joe Burrow. 0 touchdowns, one interceptions. One interception. Not a fantastic stat line for him. Only 2 sacks, though. The offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals through these first 3 games are vastly improved. Now, granted, Aaron Donald had some moments tonight. The Bengals offensive line is doing their job for the most part through these first 3 games. Rating there under Matt Stafford. You felt like with all the completions and all, you kind of felt like Burrow was going to have the better rating, but only 59.8. That interception, that was a ridiculous play, by the way. A ridiculous play by Witherspoon to come up with that interception. I don't even know how he did it. Regardless, he did. And this game, could have been a lot. By the way, did you know that DraftKings had this game at going into kickoff +3 Cincinnati Bengals, and the Bengals were 19-9 late in this game, and of course we're driving late in this game when Witherspoon had that interception. Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna move on anyway. Kyren Williams, 10 carries, 38 yards, and not as big of a factor as you would have thought in this game, particularly with Cam Akers being shipped out earlier this week to the Minnesota Vikings. You kind of felt like maybe this was a deal that I don't know. You felt like this was maybe his game to shine here. Only 3.8 yards per carry. Joe Mixon, on the other hand, dipped about a full yard per carry. But still, I felt he ran hard. I felt he was just churning up tough yardage, doing a lot of the dirty work, and of course had the 14-yard touchdown run, 19 carries, 65 yards. Travion Williams just 1 carry for 4 yards. Not a lot in the ground game for the Bengals. It was all defense and all special teams for the Cincinnati Bengals. The one caveat to that, Tyler Boyd having some nice catches on third down. He did have that play where again Witherspoon just kind of just like dove over his back and made this incredible interception. Jamar Chase though, 12 catches, 100. He called for the ball. He wanted deep shots. Now, granted, the deep shots weren't necessarily there. I'm going to play one for you in just a minute here. The deep shots weren't necessarily there, but it was 12 catches, 141 yards, no touchdowns. But it's amazing what happens when you give him the ball. 12 catches on 15 targets. It was highly accurate to him. A lot of them were short routes, but he made the plays that were needed. Tyler Boyd, 5 for 39. Tanner Hudson, 2 for 30. Rough night for T. Higgins. I think 2 or 3 drops. A penalty against on a offensive pass interference, and I love me some T. Higgins. He's been on our show. Incredibly affable and productive player for the Cincinnati Bengals, but in these first 3 games, he got blanked on, I think, 8 or 9 targets in the first game against Cleveland, had a nice bounce back game against Baltimore, but tonight, 2 catches, 21 yards on 8 targets, and again, 2 or 3 drops, as well as an offensive pass interference penalty, negating a big play to him. Rough night for Cinco. Mitchell Wilcox, doing a couple of different things here. 2 catches, 10 yards for him. Drew Sample, 1 catch, 7 yards. That was one that was an important catch that ended up being just short of the sticks. Still made a nice play. Charlie Jones had a first down on his play. 1 catch, 6 yards. Mixon only 1 catch for 5 this week. Not as active in the pass game. Puka Nacua, a guy that the Bengals needed to contain. He has become their weapon. He has become their go-to guy with Cooper Kupp on IR. Manageable. And this 37-yarder that he had was at the very end of the game when it was kind of, I don't want to call it true garbage time, but I mean, it was 19-9 with less than 2 minutes to play. So Puka Nacua, 5 for 72, respectable, but definitely not where he has been. Again, a guy that's been about averaging 12 catches and 100 plus yards per game in these first 2 games. Lou Anarumo dialing it up nicely, 5 catches, 72 yards. Tyler Higbee, 5 for 71, nice weapon for him. Tutu Atwell had just a really nice game overall, 4 for 50 and a touchdown. And then you look back up here in the rushing, 1 for 22. That was the one that ended up being, you thought it was a touchdown, and ended up being called back because he had stepped out of bounds. Van Jefferson, 1 for 46, but he continues to struggle with some consistency there. Kyron Williams, 2 for 27. Then you go down here. This is where the game was won, in my opinion. And this young man, number 23, Dax Hill, what a game from him. 8 total tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. Unbelievable game from the second-year man. And I know the Bengals have missed some of the turnovers and some of the things in the leadership from Jesse Bates, Von Bell. I get it, but Dax Hill has come in these first 3 games, and he has really provided a nice spark for the Bengals. 1 sack from Sam Hubbard, 6 total tackles from him, 2 quarterback hits. Cam Taylor-Britt in there towards the top tacklers. Logan Wilson, what a game from him. 2 interceptions from him on kind of some tipped and wonky balls thrown out from Matt Stafford there. 4 total tackles. Awuzie in there on a couple big hits. Nick Scott, nice night from him against his old team. Hendrickson was everywhere. 2 sacks tonight, 2 quarterback hits. I think that was generous, to say the least. 6 total sacks for the Cincinnati Bengals as opposed to 2 for the Los Angeles Rams. A complete flipping of the script. in this game as opposed to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I'm gonna show this. There's basically two or three areas where you could say, this is where this game was won and lost. So when you look at this here, yards are even. I mean, the Bengals had more plays and drives are pretty even, 13 to 12. I mean, you look at all this stuff. I mean, it's really the sacks, 6 sacks as opposed to two. And you look at the turnovers, two for the Rams, one for the Bengals. Look at the time of possession here, 24 even for the Rams, 36 for the Bengals. But here you go. If you go back up here, where is it? Third down efficiency, 1 of 11 for the Los Angeles Rams. 1 for 11. Bengals weren't great. They were 5 for 17. But when you are a defense and you hold a Sean McVay team to 1 of 11 on third down efficiency, you are doing your job. You are absolutely doing your job. So well done by the Bengals defense. Well done by Lou Anarumo. Well done by the special teams unit. Hey, Evan McPherson came in and hit 3 field goals. One of the miss was 56 yards, and the others were 40, basically 49 to 53, 54 yards. So you gotta like what's going on there. Um, I there are a lot of different things to point out here. I'm gonna say that I don't know if you want to call this the play of the game, but I guess with the Bengals offense struggling the way that it has, and I guess with the lack of points scored by the offense, I'm going to say this was one of my favorite plays, if not the play of the game. It was a well-designed play. It was kind of a fake pitch out bootleg, and Joe Burrow hits Jamar Chase here for a big, big gainer here. Look at this. Boom. Right down the sideline there. And if he breaks that tackle, he is gone. A nice, nice play from the Bengals there. That was one of my favorite plays of the game, of course. Joe Mixon's touchdown run was a thing of beauty. He has been running like a man possessed. I am very, very excited for what is ahead for him. Hopefully he can kind of sustain that success. And again, ironically, I feel like this was like a really good, you felt great about Joe Mixon and what he was putting on tape tonight, but yet yards per carry average and everything. It was one of the lowest. It was the lowest this year. But again, the Bengals defense and the special teams are carrying this team at this point. Maybe a bit to be expected because of where Joe Burrow is in terms of the calf injury and everything like that. So you may feel like, hey, this is a little bit to be expected. I don't know how many people expected Joe Burrow to play tonight. I don't know how many people expected a Bengals win tonight, despite his playing status. Um, I felt early on that if this was just a pain management situation, that he was going to play, and then I felt that if he was going to play, I felt pretty good about this game. I kind of, not necessarily because it's an indictment of the Rams or anything. I kind of felt like this team was going to rally around Joe Burrow and rally around his willingness to play and play through this situation, and you kind of saw a lot of that tonight. Wasn't a great game by Joe Burrow. Wasn't a perfect game by Joe Burrow. It was a sustainable. It was a consistent game from Joe Burrow. It was a very weird night, though, because when you look at the offense, you saw a lot of rhythm. And granted, it was maybe 3-yard passes, 7-yard passes. I mean, a lot of crossers, a lot of quick balls. You did see the nice play there that I showed you from Chase or to Chase. I just felt like, there was a little more in the tank, and there was a little more capability that the Bengals could have done on offense. But you got to kind of be methodical in this thing. You got to kind of be take baby steps. You got to kind of understand what's happening, and you have to understand Burrow's injury, and you have to at some point say, "Hey, this great defense, our great defensive coordinator is going to right the ship. They are going to do what is necessary to win the game, and we just have to do enough." But oddly enough, when you felt like there was a lot of rhythm, particularly early, you felt like there was a lot of rhythm on the offense, a lot of quick hits, a lot of completions, and a lot. You felt also there was 3 false starts by the offensive line. And granted, the offensive line played pretty well throughout this game in terms of pressures and all kinds of different things. 3 false starts by this offensive line in this game. And then so there's this weird dichotomy of like, you know, they've got a rhythm going, they've hit a lot of different passes, they've done a lot of different things, and then they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot a bit by these dumb penalties. And then you had some drops by T Higgins, you had some opportune situations where you felt like, man, we could really take a good stranglehold on this game, and they didn't. But they did enough. The run game did enough. Jamar Chase was a star tonight, and that's what they needed. They needed Jamar Chase to be a star, and they needed the defense to step up in a big way. They needed the special teams to step up in a big way, and they did. And they did. So they did just enough. Now the question is, okay, so what is this going to be the formula going forward? Is this going to be what they are going to do for the next handful of weeks, or is this something just for this week because of the weird nature of Joe Burrow's injury? How's he going to respond? Is he going to feel okay? And how far can we push it? All of that. I think it's going to be a slow ramp up, and thankfully it seems, if you see an article, there's an article in Cincy Jungle that talks about where Joe Burrow didn't really seem to have a setback this week as opposed to late last week. So that is good news. And the Bengals are going to, have to get things together because, like I said, it's 2-1 across the board, except for the Bengals, who are at now 1-2 and 0-2 in the division. So they have to figure some things out. That is for sure. The next stretch, you have the Tennessee Titans, who just got absolutely throttled by the Cleveland Browns. This one is in Tennessee. Tennessee's a hard team to figure out. I feel like they're well coached. I feel like they've got, you know, they can rise to the occasion in a lot of ways, but I also feel like maybe their window that they had for the past couple of years is closed. So that's what you got there. And then, of course, after that, you have the Cardinals, then you have the Seahawks, and then you have your bye. So the Bengals right now with this win, granted, not all of them, none of them are divisional games, and not all of them are conference games. You feel like there is a potential for momentum coming here, and it's possible, but they need to they need to start sustaining drives. They need to start turning field goal drives into touchdown drives. They need to again continue. This is this is what I thought was a big key for tonight as well. I think one of the reasons that the Bengals defense played much better tonight is because there was a semblance of rhythm and sustained drives, even if they didn't result in points. There was a semblance of sustained drives by the Bengals offense that really helped the Bengals defense. They weren't rushed back out there all the time on 3 and outs. They had a little help this week. And when the Bengals were either punting or what, I mean, there were drives that, you know, they were taking up time and they were, kind of using a lot of different plays. And so that helped the Bengals defense. In the past 2 weeks, they were just running that defense out on so many 3-and-outs. It hurt them. And that's a big, big difference this week. Now, I feel like we're as we've done the past couple of off seasons with the Bengals, it's about baby steps. So now the baby steps are okay. Now you've kind of maybe taken that step where you go, okay, we're not we're putting together 7 play drives, whether it's points or not. Now we gotta we gotta start executing further, and we gotta make these, 8 to 10 play drives that end up in a field goal, a touchdown, something else where you really start to become kind of that offense that a lot of people know that you are, and that identity is ingrained in this organization. So we will see if the Bengals are able to do that. We will see. I am encouraged in a lot of ways. I am encouraged because there have been a lot of building blocks the last couple of weeks. The last 2 quarters of last week, I feel like, again, despite the interception and everything, I feel like there were some nice things that that you felt that rhythm. You felt that rhythm generating. And you saw that carry over from the very first drive today. You saw that rhythm carrying over, carrying over, carrying over. So now you have to, rhythm's great, but now you got to start converting that more frequently into points, whether it's 3 points, a touchdown, that sort of thing. And I feel like the Bengals may be able to do that. But regardless, the Bengals now are 1-2. They are 0-2 in the division, but they're 1-2 overall. The rest of that division is 2-1. They have a little catch up to play here, but they have a nice stretch that sets up pretty well for them in terms of potentially getting some wins. I don't want to call them weak teams, but against teams that are favorable, especially when you are regrouping, especially when you are trying to find more rhythm, find other ways to get points and create wins for yourselves. And so I think that this next stretch sets up well for the Bengals. We will see. But I think, if you are able, again, if you're going to Tennessee, you're going to Arizona, you have Seattle at home, and then you have the bye. If you're able to have, if you're able to win the next 3 here, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. If you're 500 or whatever at this point too, you're feeling pretty good, but you need to start making that push. You need to start making that push because these sluggish starts to seasons are really, really hurting you. Really, really hurting you. So, Bengals though, yeah, Tony Rose, good point here. I know a lot of people are saying this. Hey, run the ball more, run the ball more. I feel like it was a little bit, especially as the game wore on today. I feel like it was a little bit more banging your head against the wall, running the ball this week, as opposed to the other weeks where the other teams were daring the Bengals to pass and allowing some of the chunk run plays to be there. It just it's really weird. It felt like the Rams defense. I mean, they were saying, yeah, they're playing zone most of the time, and you can kind of see that. I'd have to go back and look at the tape to see exactly what they're doing, but it just felt like every time the Bengals snapped the ball, the Rams were just kind of like, I don't want to say frozen, but they were just kind of sitting there and they'd be like, okay, what are you doing? And um, which is kind of a zone concept, I guess. And it's not really a well analyzed thing that I'm talking about, but it just felt like they were just kind of sitting there. All right. Everybody just sit there, where they had multiple layers to their defense. Everybody just sit there, see what happens, see what they give you, and then make a play. And so the Bengals, in return, instead of facing a crazy pass rush for most of the game or anything like that, it was a lot of 3-yard drags, a lot of quick outs, a lot of different plays where it's like, hey, let's just take these quick passes for yards and go with it. And, you heard the announcers talk about it. Louis Riddick, Dan Orlovsky talk about there's this war of attrition between Raheem Morris, the Rams defensive coordinator, and the Bengals offense, which is like, all right, who's going to blink first? Who's going to make the more mistakes and all this kind of stuff? And I mean, ultimately, what cost the Rams this game was their offense and their inability to block Trey Hendrickson, their inability to overcome or avoid turnovers on the offensive side of the ball, because that's really what won the game for the Bengals. So, um, my guy Pork Chop, I should have worn your hat. I was trying to go a little white out here tonight. What the heck was going on? I assume that means T Higgins. Um, I don't, that was an uncharacteristic. You heard, well, you might have been at the game, my friend, but you heard Louis Riddick go, man, this is uncharacteristic of T Higgins, uncharacteristic of T Higgins. And it was, again, 2 or 3 drops, an OPI. I don't know. This is this. I don't want to go into this whole deal about contracts and everything, but this is kind of what comes of certain things when you have these contract negotiations and they bleed into seasons and they don't go your way. Granted, Jesse Bates last year was able to kind of brush all that aside. Joe Burrow has been able to brush all that aside. Of course, he got his deal, but when you have games like this, performances like this, these are the conversations that end up coming up. Were the contract negotiations in the head? But I don't think so. I don't think so. And again, I love T Higgins. Love everything he's about. Love his performances in so many big games. Maybe there's just I think there is or has been a bit of a push for urgency, and with that comes some forcing of some plays, or hey, I got to make this play, and it just doesn't work out. Rough game for him. Rough game for him for sure. I mean, I tend to think that things are going to start turning around there, because this is just not characteristic of the T Higgins that we have come to know. And I think he's going to be okay. He's going to right the ship. And I think, much like the rest of the Bengals offense, I think, there's just, it's weird. Again, I tweeted this out. I feel like there's a really big sense over the last 6 quarters, the last 2 quarters of the Ravens game and the last 4 of this entire game, of a semblance of rhythm and a semblance of, hey, the Bengals offense, their passing offense has started to, gain some momentum. But there's also a lot of hiccups. There's a lot of penalties. There are some drops. There are some, WTF moments, for the lack of better words. I mean, it's just, there's some stuff where you just go, man, what's happening here? So I still think it is a work in progress. There are a lot more similarities in a lot of ways to last year than a lot of us would like to admit. And I think there are just, you just need to start going. Tony again says here, I think T is just thinking too much and trying too hard to show everybody how good he is. Maybe, again, contract year type of thing. Maybe that's part of it. It's just, this is a notoriously slow starting team, for better or for worse. And you wonder why, when you have an offensive minded coach and you have Joe Burrow under center and you have these wide receivers and you go, man, how is this possible? Well, that's just how they operate. And with each, again, I don't want to go back and what's your preseason plan and all the weird stuff that's happened to Joe Burrow. All of that stuff is part of it. And it bleeds into the regular season, whether we want to admit to or not. But regardless, I don't want to end on a negative note. The Bengals get their first win of the season. They are 1-2, a much, much needed win. I don't know how we would all be feeling at 0-3 regardless. Not even a conversation point right now. The Bengals have the Tennessee Titans, they have the Arizona Cardinals, and they have the Seattle Seahawks. All pretty winnable games coming up here before their bye. And then they've got kind of a tough stretch coming up here. Um, coming forward. So the Bengals could right the ship pretty quickly. Uh, Bengals, we'll just I don't know if it's Bengals foo or if we have to individualize each of those last two letters, but we'll just say Bengals foo. Um, is the only offensive line truly playing good, or is their play being masked by a lot of quick passing? Can I say both? Because I think it's both. I feel that the offensive line is playing better, but there are a couple of weak links on this offensive line. I thought Jonah Williams played better tonight. I think he did have one of those false start penalties, which was when you have I mean, when you have a false start penalty as an offensive lineman on your home field, I kind of feel like that's an egregious thing. But he wasn't the only one. Orlando Brown, who has been their best offensive lineman, I believe he had one as well. So overall, I think this is an improved line. But yes, I think the quick passing has helped things immensely. But that's what they did last year to help remedy some of the things. They had to go to quick passing to remedy a lot of the issues that were plaguing them at the beginning of the year. They also went to shotgun and they did RPO stuff and all kinds of different things to remedy that. But I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it's fair to say that the offensive line is improved. I don't think it's a perfect unit. I don't think it's a near perfect unit. I think it's an above average performing unit right now across the board. And I mean, when you have Joe Burrow, particularly a fully healthy one, I think that's all you can kind of. I don't want to say that's all you can ask for, but I think I think it's a fair shake there. There are just some situations where they are not catching passes, they are not getting open, and then there's the occasional lapse or penalty by the offensive line. But when you look at, I just feel like the offensive line isn't the big Achilles heel that it has been. Now there have been moments where you like again tonight, you go, oh, man, interior pressure, Aaron Donald. Oh gosh. I mean, you felt it, but I don't feel like this is a monumental issue that it has been really since Joe Burrow has been in Cincinnati. I feel like it's more of a rhythm. I feel like it's more of just executing, concentration, the little things and figuring it out, really. I mean, it's really kind of what it comes down to. And so tonight, as the Bengals offense hit a little bit more rhythm, you saw and the defense was left off the field a bit more. You saw more tenacity from that defense because they just weren't rushed onto the field at 3 and out after 3 and out. So yeah, Cornell, that defense was on point tonight. Yeah. Um, yeah, and then Darren Hughes right here. Yeah. I mean, sacks aren't the end all be all stats. We know that for offensive linemen, but I mean, it's a big deal, right? 15 sacks last year through 3 games, 5 this year. That's a big when you're cutting down your quarterback sacks by a third. And part of that is the quick hitting passing game as well. But part of it is also more effectiveness in the pass protection game. I feel like you're heading in the right direction. I just hope that this isn't a wallowing in 500 through much of the middle of the year until things get right. I hope the Bengals now kind of use these last two as it was last year, right? Remember, it was like, man, this New Orleans game that should have been kind of a cakewalk was like, oh man. I mean, it was like, they were so peaks and valleys, so up and down the last couple, in the middle weeks. And so now you kind of hope, well, those ups and downs were proven to be the last couple of weeks, including this one. You see they're close. When you see Jamar Chase get, 12 catches for 140 yards, 140 plus, they're close. They're close. It's a matter of consistency, and quite honestly, again, and 56-yard field goals are not gimmies, but let's just say you hit that, and let's just say Witherspoon doesn't make one of the best defensive back plays on an interception I have seen in probably the last 10 to 15 years. That was an unbelievable play to make that interception. And then let's also say Joe Burrow doesn't throw that interception last week. Are we talking about a team who is now 2-1 and Burrow has a lot more palatable stats than what we're seeing right now? But again, on the other side, shoulda, woulda, coulda, and stats are stats. You can't take them away. There have just been some things where you just go, "Wow, okay, well, didn't go your way," but at any rate, yeah, Hakeem Olajuwon. I don't know if this is the former Hall of Fame basketball player. But yeah, if Burrow can get healthy, we should thrive. Uh, what's great too is, yeah, I mean, there was you saw some stuff where he was kind of ginger walking around, but like I said, there's an article on Cincy Jungle that said that he didn't appear to re-aggravate it, at least not to the same degree that he did against the Baltimore Ravens the week prior. So that's good news. That's good news. Hey, everybody, it is 2 a.m. Eastern. Not as late for me as it is for you, but 2 a.m. Eastern. We're going to get on out of here. The Bengals are 1-2, not where you wanted to be overall, but this was a must-win game. And here's the good news. All right. The Bengals played like this was a must-win game. It's not like they came out. Now, granted, there was some execution, there were some lapses in concentration, all kinds of different things. There are some different things where you go, oh man, this could have been a lot different score wise in it and in favor of the Bengals. But regardless, you saw the intensity, you saw, especially on defense, this was a team overall who came to play despite their quarterback being injured and all kinds of different narratives. This was a team who came to play, and this was a primetime game. This was a game that the Bengals had to win. I believe now Zach Taylor, including the playoffs in primetime games, is 9-6. I'll have to double check my math there, which is a lot more. It's not great, but it's pretty good, and it is a lot more is a lot more acceptable than his predecessor, who actually was on the field tonight and did a lot of great things for the Bengals, Marvin Lewis, his record in prime time. So I would not buy, if someone were to tell me that the Bengals did not come to play tonight, I would not buy that argument. I feel like they came to play and things just weren't clicking as well as they had wanted them to. I thought the effort was there. I thought the intensity was there. And kudos to you all who are in the crowd, because I feel like there was a lot of noise. There was a lot of enthusiasm as well. And the team fed off of that. So I feel like, you know, this team's close to fully turning the corner to making it to the expectations that we all held for them this year. So, at any rate, again, if you are new here, appreciate you checking out the show, appreciate you checking out the videos and all kinds of different stuff. I am in it's kind of a man cave, I don't know. It's kind of a studio cave. I don't know. But I am happy to be talking to you about a Bengals win, because we needed this one. The Bengals Nation needed this one, and the Bengals themselves needed this one to get to just 1-2. Still being scrappy in a lot of different respects. So I do. Hey, yeah, Darren Hughes, I do have a pinball machine. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I turned off the light for you. You can kind of see it back behind that lit counter. There you go. I can see that. I lit it up for you back there. It's a Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a mini pinball. It's not a true pinball machine, but it's a mini pinball machine. Santa brought that for my kids. And so there I am shadowing myself so you can see some of the things in the background here on the video. And by the way, if you are new here, you can check out on the bottom side there by the Cincy Jungle icon. You can click the show icon to go to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and of course click the bell to be notified when we go live and when new content is available. And I've gone. I strategically turned off a light here so you can kind of see some of the stuff in the back. You get a little bit of the shadowy thing here, but now you don't see me. I don't know. Maybe that's a better thing. But if you like the audio side of things, again, Coach Speak, Chalk Talk from Coach Matt Minnick, talking football with Bengal Jim and friends, or this show, 3 and Out from Jason and Kevin. Check it out. We appreciate it. I'm going to get on out of here. I'm Anthony Cosenza. It is late. I appreciate all of you checking us out. You guys are hanging out with us after 2 a.m. Eastern. That's unbelievable. Appreciate you. Hey, Bengals are 1-2. I'm shadowing out here. You can see. So I'm going to get on out of here. But things are looking up. The Bengals are going to do their thing. And we will be back with multiple shows this week. The Aftermath with John Sheeran and myself. Of course, we've got our main show on Thursday night. We're going to do listener questions live and all kinds of different stuff. And I will not be a silhouette next time you see me. I promise. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bengals win. Let's be happy about it. See you soon.